Shit 90 Shows Taught Me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.
Are you ready to slay another day? So are we. Welcome back to Shit 90 Shows Taught Me. I'm Jess Sterling here with my co-host, Sara Fergenson. Sarah, how are you?
Jessica, I am so happy to be a bad girl with you. You and I are getting on the naughty list this year. Coal only for us bad girls. Bad girls, bad girls. What you gonna do?
We've been known to break into a store, steal some weapons, crash a cop car, all the things teen girls just do.
Yeah, just girly things.
Girly things.
Just girly things. Very happy to be here. We are both in the Christmas spirit. We are 2 days away from Christmas. By the time this release, it is Boxing Day for those who celebrate.
Oh, Boxing Day for the Canadians. Yes. So we hope you all had a lovely holiday if you celebrate. If not, hopefully some rest and relaxation. Because I know that is an end of year thing that is always on my list, Sarah. I'm always I will take a chill pill between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
Never happens.
It never happens. I went to the library yesterday and I got 4 books.
Ooh, did you get any holiday themed or what was the theme? Thrillers? You're into thrillers.
Yeah, they're all thrillers. Yeah, I did not get any. I mean, I know that they have those Christmas love story books, but as we talked about recently in the Felicity podcast, I do not read those, but I watch those. My newest being, because I watched 2 since I last spoke to you.
Oh, yes, please.
Or
Because
maybe
we talked
more.
about the Chad Michael Murray one. What have you watched since?
So I watched one called Sweethearts, which is with that girl, the kid that was in Mad Men. Her name is Kieran or something like that.
Girl that was in
the little girl that was Mad Men. She grew up. She's not January Jones.
Got it.
She grew up. So I watched that. That one was about 2 high school best friends, platonic, and they're in their freshman year of college, and they both have boyfriends and girlfriends back at home, but it's rooting their lives. They're not able to enjoy their so then they go home during Thanksgiving break.
I've been wanting to see this.
The plan is to break up during Thanksgiving break.
Yes, this is on HBO Max for those interested. Yes. Because I remember seeing, I think Will brought this up to me or something, and we watched a trailer for it, and I'm like, this looks cute.
It was cute. That's how I would describe it. I felt like it was cute.
I feel the name then works very well.
Yes, because they're trying to break up with their high school sweethearts. And then of course there's a will they won't they actually be,
of course,
are they actually best friends? And then the other one that I watched is called Christmas in the Spotlight, and this one is special because it is a dramatic,
immediately googling what
a dramatic recreation love story fabricated between a fake pop star.
I saw the cover. Hold on. For those wondering, if you're watching us on YouTube, I'm going to share my screen real quick because this is so Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce coded. It's ridiculous.
It is. That is what it's supposed to be. That is what it's branded to be.
This looks horrible. How bad was it?
You know what? It was better than I anticipated it to be. They did a lot of really funny, when they could drop in Taylor Swift songs or references.
I was just gonna say that were half the dialogue, her lyrics.
A good portion was oh, now we have bad blood between me and so and so. It was stuff. It was stuff like that. Which every single time they did it, I laughed because it was funny and cheesy, which I feel as though if you're just not taking it seriously, that's exactly what it should be. So I actually liked it a lot. I don't know. So far, my favorite cheesy Christmas movie that I've watched this year has been, I don't even remember. It was the one that was with Ezra Fitz and Ezra Fitz, Ian
from Pretty Little Liars.
holy fuck, why can't I remember her name right now?
Hold on, I'm doing a little
The
quick
redhead, the
Goog.
one that everybody knows.
Oh, Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay
Our Little
Lohan.
Secret
Yeah,
is the
yeah, Our
title
Little
of the
Secret, yeah.
movie.
That one's my favorite so far. I don't know why I forgot Lindsay Lohan's
And
name.
it is a Netflix original, I believe, if
Yeah.
people are interested
Mhm.
in checking it out. I have not. I have to admit, we really haven't watched a ton of holiday content this year. Like,
Yeah.
especially not new content. Like we were doing like Christmas crafts, and so
Yeah.
our move was to put on something we've already, a classic, so we watched A Christmas Story. We
Barf.
started Christmas Vacation. We haven't finished
Bar-
it.
Oh, National Lampoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I want to do next year? And like, this
What?
is probably not a shit 90s thing. This might be like a whirlwind thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, I would love to bring you into the world of cheesy Christmas movies and cover a
Ooh,
couple.
I would love that. And I think we need to do it in the vein of like, I think one of them needs to be a you watch and tell me about
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
because it just feels like there's so much
Yeah.
material there.
Yeah. So, because it is my bread and butter, and I just feel as though it would be magical to do with you.
Yeah. There was one that we watched that was actively bad, and I can't remember what the heck it was. But like we watched Nutcracker, which is terrible. Ben Stiller's in it. It's on Hulu. Don't watch it. It's not really even Christmassy at all. There was one, oh, you know what it was? It had something to do with trivia. Hold on. Christmas trivia movie. Trivia at St. Nick's. So this is a Hallmark movie.
Oh, I watched that one. Yes, I did.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
So bad. Like,
Yeah, it was pretty
fun to
bad.
make fun of.
So, funnily enough, that one has, we're talking about more Pretty Little Liars. It has Jenna from Pretty Little Liars.
That is
And
Jenna, the blonde
yes,
girl?
yeah,
No
and
way.
and Noel from Pretty Little Liars.
That's the guy?
Yes.
It's been a while since I watched Pretty Little Liars. Okay,
Yeah.
I think it was because, first of all, Jenna
They're
usually
growing
was a
up.
brunette
Yes.
and also has like the big sunglasses. So
Yes,
like
yeah.
very much changes her entire look. And then Noel Khan, right? That's his
Noel
name.
Khan, yes.
Noel Khan. Okay, I do see it now. I just didn't. I mean, they both have grown up significantly. So
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So I did watch that one too. I gave it credit. It was bad, but I gave it credit for being like different from the standard cheesy Christmas movie Hallmark movie format. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Yeah, it is a strange one because the whole premise is that there's like this Christmas trivia thing at this bar that's
Mhm.
like a very big deal for the blonde
Yeah.
girl. And
Mhm.
she is like really, really like invested in it. And she's type A. And then you have the other guy who's very much like go with the flow jockey kind of guy. And she's like, oh, sports, meh.
Mhm.
It's typical. It's he likes sports. She likes nerd
Academics.
stuff. Yeah, academics.
Yeah.
Can they get along? Well,
Yeah,
these two crazy kids make it work.
They did. She was really into telescopes. She was like an astronomy girl.
Yes, which I was very upset because at first I thought she said astrology, and I was like,
No.
I'm listening. No, wasn't
No,
astrology.
I was not
Anyway.
listening. Yeah. Yeah. So that's our little segment. I hope that everybody has like a nice little holiday.
Oh, and you know
And-
what other Christmas movie we have watched
What's that?
is A Muppet Christmas, which is
Ew.
obviously not something you would watch, but I love it. Okay, should we talk about Buffy? Because we have some bad girls to chat about here.
Bad girls. Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm pretty excited. Season 3, episode 14. We're getting there.
Mhm.
We're like really,
I feel like we're kind of zooming through this season, and I know a lot of people have emailed us because a lot of people are saying this is when it revs up. This is when the show, like the season, revs up. I would agree. I do think sometimes Buffy can be a bit meandering, and then very suddenly we're like, halfway, 3/4 through the season, and it's like, boom, now we're cooking with fire. And I feel like this episode, I freaking loved it. It had action, it had drama. I feel like we're moving the plot forward in many ways. We have a new Watcher. There's like a lot of exciting things happening here.
I watched it not once, not twice, but thrice.
Thrice? You watched it? Daddy Mams would be so proud. He'd be like 3 score And Sarah watched it 3 times. It works perfectly.
Yeah, because I really, really wanted to try to lock in to this episode and put my full attention in. I am Xing out of all of my browsers. I am Xing out of all of my text messages. I am solely yours. That is my Christmas gift to you, the listeners.
Us and the
Talk
listeners,
about-
thank you
yeah,
so much.
To talk about no more online shopping today, baby.
Yeah, we have so much. I feel like there's just a lot going on in this episode, a lot happening with Buffy. I think they're like the natural place to start is just the Faith and Buffy kind of pair overall.
Yes, yeah.
And Sarah, this episode, I've said this in the past, and I can't remember if I've said it on a podcast. I think I may have, where I could see there being like fanfic about Faith and Buffy. This episode, I feel like brought that up to a 10. Like the Fuffy fans, they have to be out there. Well, it's either that or Baith. Like it's
Fuffy,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I see it and I buy into it because the thing is that this show has hot girls, and it's pretty annoying when the hot girls don't get to be hot girls because they are too busy fighting and
being with loser boys.
Sure. Yes. So we're like, you know what? We're going to take our hot girls, put them in hot clothes, and let them do hot girl things. And I was like, yes, please. And then, yeah, I feel as though we really got to get to know Faith a little bit more and her mindset. And it really highlighted the differences between Faith and Buffy, which was very interesting as well. Like, we already knew that Faith was edgier than her, a little bit more rough around the edges, while like Buffy is more of the traditional, like high school in her heyday popular girl. And Faith was never that, but they both like fought. Like, we also saw Faith before kind of like jump into things head first. And it's kind of funny because I really think that I don't know if Buffy had this in her all along, but I do think that like Willow has rubbed off on her a bit about being more like cerebral, and Giles as well, and like taking a breath and really thinking and overthinking and analyzing a situation, while Faith jumps into things head first without thinking about it. And I think it has less to do with their training. It could, but more to do with how they are as individuals. So it was really interesting to see throughout this episode how, like, when I thought that they were more in the middle of being similar, more so than like Buffy and Kendra, right? But like,
yes,
the further and further we go throughout this episode, we see how their like ideologies and their thought processes and how they approach slaying to be totally different and approach life. So
I couldn't agree with you more. And I was thinking so much about that throughout this episode, because if we take the 3 slayers that we're aware of, right? We have Buffy, Faith, Kendra obviously sadly no longer with us. But if we take them and we put them on a spectrum from like studious or like thinks through their actions to takes action, impulsive, right? On like a spectrum, I think you would put Faith all the way at the one end of extremely impulsive, doesn't think before she acts or speaks or anything, really, just goes with the flow. That is Faith. And then you have Kendra at the opposite end of the spectrum, much more mindful about things, very like focused on logic and reason, very demure, very mindful, very like studious, right? She follows the rules to a T. There is a way for things to happen, and that is the way she is going to be doing them.
Yeah, very textbook. Like in her book of like slaying, it's like, you are Slayer, you kill vampires. Therefore, every vampire, there's no black and white. I mean, it's only black and white. There's no gray. Every vampire equals bad. I will kill you.
And the interesting thing is, Faith is also like that, right? So on either end of the spectrum, you have, of like, we will kill vampires immediately. And then you have Buffy, who, like, I would say back before we met Faith, we would have said she was on the other end of the spectrum. But it turns out, no, she's kind of right in the middle between these two characters. And it is so fascinating to watch as you so like astutely brought up, how Willow and Giles have rubbed off on Buffy and made her like changed her way of thinking when it comes to taking on vampires. And I think it's not a small part. I do think it's like a pretty big part of it is I have this like found family, this group that I'm also looking out for. It isn't just me. Whereas I would say with Kendra and Faith, they were the soul slayers, and that was the way slaying was usually always done. Now Buffy has a group. She has the Scoobies. She is both trying to protect them, protect herself, protect Sunnydale, right? There's the Hellmouth. Like
her family.
Her family. I think that changes the way Buffy does things. And I do think Giles, I think, is the biggest influence, and to a smaller extent, Willow, like, have really changed the way Buffy slays, the way she operates. And I loved kind of having that they kind of bump up against each other, Faith and Buffy do this episode. I really enjoyed it, and it made me, I don't know, it made me reconsider Buffy as a character, because I feel like I'd always had this picture of her as one way, right? Like almost not I don't think of her in this way, but it was interesting to hear that Giles's first encounter with Buffy, as recited by Wesley in like his little journal, his Watcher journal, was like, oh, she like doesn't listen to authority figures. She's like mouthy, right? All these things that I think you would associate with Faith at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think back in the first season, and like she was in a way, but not to the extent. Like Faith is insubordinate. That's the thing. Like she is like Buffy might question the Watchers or authority, but she is not going against them. Aside from the angel thing, like that was, but also she was trying to like navigate the situation. Like it's just not in the same way. And I think that like Buffy, I don't know if like Faith has like a lot of, she doesn't like put like human value. Like she just doesn't give a shit. It's very interesting. So we start this episode with them. It's like a lot of like friend time or like Slayer time. So we see them having like a gossip sesh while they're slaying.
Fighting. That was
which I actually love, like talking about like how to get me engaged in the fighting. That's exactly how. Like let's have a gossip sesh while we're doing our kiki punchy, and then I'm locked in. And she's basically trying to get the tea on Buffy and Xander. And because I feel as though like Faith is like, you know, do we share people on our body count? Like, please tell me.
Have you slept with Xander? And I at this point, Buffy doesn't know that Faith has. Like, I think she's kind of onto them a little bit in that scene later with Xander, where she's like, why is it when I say Faith's name, your eye twitches? Like, there's something up. But she doesn't yet know. And she insists, she's like, I love Xander. I don't love him like that. Like, we're just friends. No, I've never wanted to. And I think, Sarah, for me, this episode was further confirmation that I think Faith is just like a sexual person. Yes. And I think it's like doing the slaying gets her, as she calls it, juiced. And so that's what she says.
I know.
Taking a vamp juices me. Like,
I know.
She gets all hot and bothered when she's slaying. And I think it's kind of any port in a storm in those moments. I don't think there's, if I had to, I would assume there's not going to be any sort of like Faith Xander relationship. I think it was simply I'm hot, you're here, let's do it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that it could have been literally anybody in any gender, anybody. Like I think that she's just like, it's like she gets juiced and she's like, I'm ready to go. And I think that like maybe Faith is just really trying to understand Buffy, and like she doesn't really understand how like her way is not everybody's way. She's like, what do you mean like you don't get super horny and hungry after you kill?
Yeah,
like
if you're not enjoying it, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. And then in a further conversation, she's like, I don't know, like if you're not having the best time ever like killing people and like slicing heads off, then like obviously you're doing it wrong. Like she doesn't have the same like, and I don't know if like, I think it's like kind of like older sister, younger sister mentality of like the older sister, like carries the burden of the responsibility while the younger sister can just fuck off. Like maybe if Faith didn't feel like Buffy was like number one, like, you know, has like
Interesting.
maybe if she was the only Slayer or was the only Slayer at a period of time, because Faith did know about Buffy, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because
As
she was the
being
one who
brought up.
sought her out.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
yeah, because maybe like that's why she doesn't have this feeling of like deep responsibility, or one of the reasons, as Buffy does, because like, you know, like Buffy's like, yeah, she reminds me of like just like older sister, younger
she's the one
sister.
who has the responsibilities. Faith is like, quote unquote, the extra, right? And I think when you look at the fact that Buffy has had Giles to kind of guide her and train her and,
Yeah.
and all of those things and give her guidance over these past few years, Faith is had the opposite of that. It's kind of like nature versus nurture in a way, where like Faith hasn't had that. She hasn't had that like stable guiding hand. And so I think she also kind of represents what the Slayer would be if they don't have a Watcher to kind of, I don't know, checks and balances, help
Yes.
train
Yeah.
them. She's very much impulsive and acts without thinking. And I think Buffy, now that she's had this mentorship from Giles, has learned, maybe I shouldn't just, I don't know, jump down a manhole and go 6 against 2 against the vampires.
I also think that if Buffy didn't, like, in her first year of like full slaying, if she didn't deal with Daddy Vamps and how like that had really fucked her up, because prior to that she did have this like I'm invincible type of mentality, and that really changed her because she literally died. Like Faith hasn't had that like shock of reality. Like maybe if Buffy was able, or like didn't have that like big like burden of like dying, then like maybe like she wouldn't have lost that like, you know,
some youth kind of like immaturity,
exuberance. Yeah.
I agree with that. I don't think Faith has seen enough bad thing or had enough negative consequences for her actions
Yes.
that like would maybe change the way she thinks about slaying and
Yeah.
just the perspective that she has on it. She
Yeah.
views it as like, this is a fun thing that we
This
get
is
to
fun.
do. And Buffy views it as like, this is our responsibility.
Yeah. And Buffy has like lost people, has seen people get lost, like friends have died.
Faith lost her Watcher, right? So like that's a thing. And I'm trying to and it was because of the the guy with the claw hands or whatever, the hooves.
That's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so old that he grew hooves. Like who knew?
So sad. Hooves existed before hands, obviously.
That's what we learned. Yeah, in that episode, that's what we learned. I mean, yeah, but like in reality, like how, I mean, I don't know. I still don't understand the logistics, but like how long realistically was like Faith working with that Watcher?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Couldn't have been that long.
If she got brought up when Buffy died in the
when Kendra died.
When Kendra died.
Because that's when Kendra came was the drowning.
Right. Thank you. So so it was even shorter, a shorter amount of time. So like,
so she's like a baby Slayer, essentially. Like she's still figuring it out. Yeah. And I really enjoyed this. So the whole crux of the episode is like this Illuminati, which Sarah, luckily I watched this with closed captioning because I legitimately thought we were going to be talking about the Illuminati.
Oh my gosh. Talk about one of my passions in life is the Illuminati. And if it's real and like everything, what like they have, what power they behold. I would have been very excited if we were getting like an Illuminati storyline, but it's an Illuminati.
But eliminate essentially. Like they're trying to end the world or whatever. They worshipped Balthazar, a demon. He's supposed to be dead, right?
He's a deado.
He's supposed to be deado.
Okay. Yeah. Balthazar is a lover of jewelry, is what I want to say. Balthazar
loves that amulet. Yeah.
His storyline was, I am a master jewelry creator. I love to make little trinkets and I have this amulet and it brings me so much joy that it gives me power. So I need my amulet back. But we think he's dead. But in reality, he's not.
Right.
Because he could not die because he just loves his jewelries, his
No.
jewels so much.
Yeah, he needs to stay awake. And when we meet him, so I had texted our little group chat that we sometimes talk about Buffy too. And my exact words were, "What in the Jabba the Hutt is fucking going on? He looks like a marshmallow and a turd had a really ugly baby."
Now that is very unkind for poor Balthazar, because I would just say you are being a little ableist right now, because he said that somehow he got disabled and that's why he can't move and groove.
But he literally yells out, like, "Moisten me." Like, this is disturbing. Like, basically, he's sitting in his own filth.
Yeah,
He's like chilling in a hot tub, and he has people ladling water onto him so he can stay moist until he receives his amulet and gets back to power.
He's in an Uggo stew.
It's disgusting. I couldn't believe when they showed him. I was like, what are we doing? What is happening right now? And so these Illuminatis, they have these like swords, these identifying swords, which is how they're able to figure out that's who they are. They want to bring Balthazar back to power. And the whole point is that Buffy and Faith are supposed to be obtaining this amulet so that Balthazar doesn't get it.
Which is really sad because he doesn't have many things in life that make him happy. The only thing that he cares about is his little necklace.
He also really does seem to enjoy taking people and like shoving them into his belly rolls and then like killing them or consuming them or something. I'm not exactly sure what was happening. I don't know if he has a second mouth down there. But something was happening.
He loves a spa treatment because he's
Who doesn't?
He's in the hot tub.
He should have got some hot rocks, a nice little steam bath. Probably would have done good.
Very nice. And on top of that, all of the Illuminati's swords are bejeweled. They all have crystals.
Yes,
so this just confirms the fact that all he wants in life is beautiful things. Beautiful things. Luxury. Think luxury. Think exuberance. Think crystals and diamonds and everything beautiful. And he is just stuck in this little tub for all eternity. He can't see one thing. He couldn't even like get stuck in a stalagmite.
Yeah. His eyes are red from crying so much about his lost amulet. Yeah, it's
very sad.
It's wild. And so they're charged with like getting the amulet, right? So Buffy goes on her own because Faith is off doing God knows what. She almost gets caught.
Faith is like, you know what? I don't feel like doing what we're supposed to be doing. How about you go and I'll copy your homework?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Rude.
Faith. So she does show up and she does help Buffy out. And Buffy says, oh, there were 6 of them. Like they got the amulet. I couldn't exactly take on 1 against 6. And Faith is like, well, I'm here now. So come on, let's go. She wants to go down into the manhole, fight 6 on 2. Buffy doesn't think that's a great idea, but Faith says, well, if you don't follow me, I'll probably die. And then she jumps in and Buffy is forced to fight with her. And I don't know if it felt like this was kind of the game changer for Buffy. And I don't know if it had to do with the fact that she was literally almost drowned again. Like, I know that she jokes about it. And I was thinking the joke as she said, like, oh, I'm always getting drowned. But like, Sarah, you have to imagine that is pretty traumatizing for someone who was killed via drowning previously.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a trigger of hers to be forced into water face down, almost suffocated. I was worried that she actually did die for a second and that like we're like, oh no, is it gonna branch off again? Do we get like another one? But yeah, I like that line. Was this before or after they do their little steelies?
So this all happened before that, because this is when, in my opinion, it's after this fight that it seems like Buffy not changes, but like very much leans into Faith's mentality.
Well, yeah, probably because like she's like gets this new Watcher, which we'll talk about in a moment, and she gets this homework assignment, and she's like doing things like the boring way, and Faith is like, Oh, and this is also after, like, everybody was like, "Oh, we have to take our test." And she's like, "But I want to talk about this shit. Like, let's talk about it. Fuck school." And then so finally she's like, "You know what? I am done being the good girl. I want to try Faith's way." So you're right. Like, she does start following Faith and doing it Faith's way, which is just like, let's have fun. Because my favorite line of the episode was like, oh, it was so good. When Faith was like, "You can't tell me that you didn't have a great time." And then Buffy, all cool and badass, is like, "Didn't suck." I loved that. That was so
Yeah.
good. It was such a cool line. And then,
Yeah.
so then I think that they go clubbing.
Yeah, so after they do get the amulet away from these vampires, Buffy is like doing I gotta say, the anxiety brain and like the good student in me was dying when she's talking throughout this chemistry test. I'm like, you're gonna get caught.
Chemistry's for losers.
You're gonna get someone in trouble. And Faith shows up, does a little knock, 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 does a little heart on the window, which I'm sure the Buffy fans were like dying at. And Buffy just skips out on this like super important test. And that's when they start slaying and dancing and doing all this stuff. And Buffy, very carefree in a way we haven't really seen a ton, right? They're at the Bronze, just clubbing it up, dancing. Angel shows up, and Buffy just full on like does the leap, wraps her legs around his waist and everything. Like, this was a big moment.
He is very strong and is able to carry her, which just makes me think that they could probably have some very good sex standing up. Which, yeah. Was
so.
it? Were you getting annoyed when like Faith kept asking personal questions about how like her sex life is?
Well, she didn't. How many times did she do it? She did it with the Xander stuff. Did she ask about Angel? I don't remember.
No, probably not. But I was just wondering. It was probably like how you feel when I ask you questions.
I guess it would really depend. I don't think it was. I wasn't annoyed when she was asking about Xander, because I do think that is kind of a like, oh, I'm like checking, like, do you have a history with this guy? Like, is it going to be a problem that I slept with him? Like that didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is when, right, so they talk about Balthazar being alive, and now he has the amulet, and Buffy gives him the amulet for safekeeping.
Oh, just for safekeeping?
Because freaking Wesley, who we will talk about, we'll get into him, I promise. He was keeping it like on his person, and you know, Buffy doesn't know this man. Like, it's much safer in Angel's hands. And this is when we get the breaking and entering, and Faith is basically like, I want it, so I got it. What's that song?
It's it's an Ariana Grande song. It's 7 Rings, I think.
Yeah, right. I want it. I got it. Like, that's what it feels like she's doing with all the weapons in this store.
Yeah. That was so freaking fun. I love the fact that they just like went around and was just doing like a little stealies, and Faith was just like, look, we are the Slayers, we're invincible, and we should just take what we need. So they go to, they don't do something fun. Like, if Balthazar was out and about and did the stealies, he would go to the jewelry store. He would go to Tiffany's. He would go to Van Cleef. He would go to Hermes. But no, these two are like, let's steal weapons, which is like, not as fun. And
well, also, why? Like, we've seen what kind of arsenal Giles has. Why do you need to steal weapons?
Well, because stealing is fun.
For the fun?
Allegedly. Stealing
I can't,
is fun,
Sarah.
allegedly.
I've never
shoplifted.
You've never like on purpose.
Stop down. You have never shoplifted?
Never on purpose. Like, I've accidentally walked out of a store without paying for something, and then realized later when I got home, like, oh, I found this at the bottom of my grocery cart, or like, whatever.
Why are you such a dweeb?
Because I was unmedicated with anxiety for the first like 30 years of my life. So imagine me, an anxious girl in a store. Never. I'd be like, tempted? I'm going to be arrested.
Have you ever been tempted to steal?
I mean, not really. Like, there's things that I've wanted. Like, give me an example. Like, why would you be tempted to steal instead of just buying something? The price, the
Because
thrill.
we're poor. We're poor.
I mean, I was
Because
poor, sure, but like as a child, no, I wouldn't. I don't think I ever was like, I'm just gonna put this in my pocket and leave.
as an adult, never.
No, because in my opinion, the risk is like not worth whatever I was going to steal. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to be arrested. I don't want to be in trouble. Like,
Yeah.
I get nervous when cops are following literally behind me. I
Yeah.
turn onto a different street just so that they won't follow me.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
Yeah, I've never stolen either. So
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's what? You just said why you're such a dweeb, and then you just said no. I've never stolen either.
Well, yeah.
Why is it different? Why am I the dweeb and you're not?
I just could not imagine ever shoplifting. That is beneath me.
Anyway, they steal all these weapons. Immediately they get arrested because they do it in such a ridiculous way where they're just like kicking in glass. They're just doing whatever they want. And then I couldn't believe this, Sarah. Like the whole point, not the whole point, but like part of the point in being a slayer is to like protect humankind, right?
Yeah.
And like, listen, you know I say ACAB all the time.
Ugh.
Like, I don't like cops. I understand hating cops. But I also don't like, there could have been pedestrians, there could have been bikers, there could have been any amount of people where kicking the back seats of these cops' cars, causing them to swerve and crash their car. Like, this is crazy behavior, Sarah. They could have killed somebody.
Well, they had to get out. It was wasting their time to be in the cop car.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
The way that they did that was pretty cool too. And then this is the first time where like we see a difference when the car crashed and the two police officers are knocked out. They're like, this is where they start to kind of diverge because Buffy has a conscience and she's like, hey, like we should really call 911. And Faith is like, no, it's fine. They're fine. It's like, why would you call 911? They are 911. What are they going to do? Come to each other? So then they run off. And then the next morning we see once again Buffy have a conscience because she's checking the newspaper, making sure like that they're not like,
in
dead.
there. Yeah.
Like, yeah, not dead or like a report or like even more so that but like Buffy and Faith got arrested, that like their names are not in there and there's not a manhunt for them. And so we start to see like some sort of guilt from Buffy's end. And then basically yada yada, more bad stuff happens. And I mean, like, no yada yada, but
no,
a lot of stuff happens.
Well, after they get out of the cop car and everything, they're fighting vamps kind of one-on-one, and they're or two-on-one. They're kind of saying like, if we take them out one at a time, like we do have a chance here.
Yeah.
And so as they're doing this, they run into a character that we meet in this episode. That is like the mayor's assistant.
Yeah. The mayor's a little bitch boy.
Mayor's bitch boy, and he is also outside, and Buffy goes to fight him, and she realizes very quickly this is a human, not a vampire.
Yeah.
Faith doesn't, stabs him with a stake, and he is killed like very shortly thereafter, and they flee the scene of the crime. What?
Yeah, not good.
What?
And yeah, that is very not good because the thing is that like Buffy like pushes him away. And like, I think in that moment, like she, by giving herself space from the situation, she's able in that second to analyze like, this is human, not vampire. But Faith, because she just jumps into things without thinking, stakes him like right in the heart. He bleeds out. And essentially, yeah, like Buffy is like completely shook. Like, once again, like we need to call somebody, like we need to get this man help, like we had to bring him to the hospital. And Faith is like, fuck it. And then we see at the end of the episode, like Buffy goes and visits Faith and is essentially like, look, like we like were wiling out, like you killed a person. And once again, like Buffy's conscious versus like, you know, she thinks that they're more in the middle, like we were talking about. But Faith legitimately says at the end of the episode, I do not give a singular fuck that
She
I killed
says,
somebody.
I don't care. And this is where we need to like talk about this whole thing, because she is saying she doesn't care, right? Buffy is checking in on her. However, we do see Faith kind of having a Lady Macbeth moment in the bathroom sink, right? She's out damn spotting her tank top that she was wearing when she killed this the mayor's assistant, the mayor's bitch boy. So she is like, in my opinion, very obviously bothered by the fact that she has killed a human, not a vampire. But she is putting up these walls. She's putting up this front of, I do not care. And not only that, Sarah, it's not just that she says, I don't care. And that's like the stinger that we end the episode on. Literally right before that, she has dumped the body. Like she has cleaned up the scene of the crime.
That was wild too. See, this is why I feel like I don't fully buy in that she was feeling remorse. I think that she was like in the sink, just like cleaning up after her mess. And I think it would be even more rock and roll if like she just literally just doesn't give a shit. And it's like, well, what happens when like you bring up these girls without proper training? They have these superpowers and no like support, no union, no family anymore and friends. And what happens when like they become like what they perceive as invincible, and kind of like the mayor, and like the power that holds. Like I think we see what happens, and I can see a world where like ultimately like Buffy has to stop Faith. Like Faith becomes like some sort of like crazy vigilante, like insubordinate, like I am going to do whatever the fuck I want to do, which kind of like will fuck stuff up for Buffy herself. Like she
Definitely.
will, like she's going to get into the way. She already kind of like you know, makes their presence known in certain situations that could get them into big trouble.
Yeah.
I can see a world where we're ending this season where we have to be anti-Faith. Like we have to stop her because she's getting out of control. Because I can just see, this is what happens when you don't have proper support. I can see Faith, sadly, abusing her powers and becoming like, I don't think she's going to like join the vampires, but I think that she's just going to become a monster in her own right.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I did read the scrubbing of the tank top to be more of a guilt-ridden action, and I don't know if that's true.
You have a conscience, because you have a conscience, because you would feel bad. But Faith, I genuinely think the fact that she dumped the body, I think that she's just cleaning up after herself. Like, I don't think
that's so interesting because I view her, if we're viewing her as like, I just see her as more of an emotional character. Like she acts on impulse, yes, but I also feel like her emotions cloud her judgment occasionally. And so I could see that the body cleanup as like a guilt thing of like, I need to get rid of this so that I can move on and stop thinking about it. And so she's doing it out of guilt more so than like this logical, no one can catch me sort of thing. I don't know. I'm so interested though in seeing where this goes, because it is a major, major departure from how Buffy reacts to things. And the fact that no one else is aware that this happened besides Buffy is also huge, because as we talked about, Giles is no longer Buffy's watcher. And while that's the case, as anticipated, she's still treating him very much like her watcher. And so I'm interested to see, does she go to Giles for guidance? Does she go to one of the other Scoobies for guidance? I doubt she goes to Wesley for guidance. So interested to see where the next episode picks up with Faith and Buffy, because if they weren't already butting up against each other, this is like a massive, massive thing that I don't think is going to be ignored. Like they have to address this, because it is one thing to be killing vampires left and right, but you killed a human. Even if it is a human on the bad side, he was still a human and he is dead. And not only that, Sarah, he's the mayor's assistant. Like, he's not just like some rando on the street. Like,
well,
this guy.
They didn't know that.
No, I'm not saying they didn't know. I'm saying his death could have implications because now this guy is missing.
Yeah. Has Buffy ever killed a human?
This is a great question.
I don't think so. And
when
I was thinking about this, it kind of made me think of superhero movies. And this is one of the things that really irks me about superhero movies is that how many civilians wind up getting killed due to like these like superpowers, like because like one of my biggest pet peeves is when like these superhero movies is like they're crashing into buildings like because they're fighting for the greater good, but then they're destroying civilian lives as well. And it's not even the bad guys that's doing it. It's like literally just like whomever, like Marvel superhero, Iron Man, whatever. Like they're like, they don't care. They're just like crashing into buildings. So it's just like, it's kind of like, I'm surprised that we haven't seen more civilian deaths due to like, oh, we have to kill the vampires. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I often think about that when I watch like Marvel stuff and like superhero stuff is how there's always going to be these like innocent civilians who end up dying as a result of like buildings falling and cars crashing and all that stuff.
Yeah. They're like, oh, like let's just like randomly like lift up this car and like throw it at this like big entity. But it's like, well, baby girl, like, you know, now they don't have a car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now what? Now
what?
Now their car insurance is going to skyrocket. Like you're like affecting, and I think I think that's like what happened, like what we talked about, or like what I don't know, Civil War was about at one point.
Yeah. That it definitely was. Yeah,
I think that was a plot point. But then I was like, okay, now I feel like I'm going to be on like Captain America's side, and nobody wants to be on Captain America's side. He's a fucking dweeb. Talking about a dweeb. Let's talk about Wesley.
Yes, let's talk about Wesley. So Wesley is the new Watcher. I thought this was so funny, Sarah, because we have spent how much time like talking about Giles. Giles puts me to sleep with his lore. You've come around on him in a big way.
Yes.
Now, this is so funny because we actually found someone nerdier than Giles to come in and be the Watcher.
I have a theory.
Oh, yes, please.
Are Watchers clones?
So
clones.
Okay, so you're saying Wesley would be a clone of Giles?
And like the girl Watcher was a girl clone of Giles because they're like all the same archetype. They're like I don't think Wesley and Giles look too dissimilar. And like they're all like nerdy. Like like why?
I think it's more like an archetype thing, right? So like the Slayer has to be a more of a bold, brash kind of, obviously they're all women. And I think the Watchers by proxy then have to be cautious, nerdy. Like I think it's just people that are cautious and nerdy are more attracted to this sort of a position than they would be a slaying position.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, Wesley is nerdier. He's like, you know, like there's so many things that have changed since you were trained, but like literally lists the same exact things. He's like, I've like even encountered, he's like, it's more hands-on. I've even encountered 2 vampires. It's like,
ooh, he's such a nerd. He gives, if you read this textbook, you'll know exactly how to do this thing. Whereas Giles actually has like lived in experience.
Talk about, it's so funny because it's kind of like the same exact conversation. It was like, oh, we thought Buffy was this archetype until we meet Faith. It's the same exact thing with Giles. Like we thought that Giles was this specific thing until we find like the caricature version of
You're
this.
so right. Because he is like, his little tagline of a good slayer is a cautious slayer. And he very much treats Buffy like she's his employee,
yeah.
not like someone, because I love Buffy giving him snark of like, what about a please and thank you? What about asking my opinion? What about asking how I am? And Buffy really gives him like just the cold shoulder for this entire episode. She's not impressed with him. She still just wants to deal with Giles. Giles is very irritated with him. And I think part of the reason why, Sarah, is because I think Giles is like, wow, this was me prior to like really getting to know Buffy and like developing a relationship with her.
Yeah. It's like a mirror unto himself, really. He's like,
yeah.
He's like, this is what people see me as. And it's like, I am not this, but I wasn't because I was also Ripper.
Yeah.
So it is very interesting, and it also gives very like big brother little brother energy as well. I do like this dynamic. I think it's interesting. It kind of reminds me of like Scrappy and Scooby-Doo. You know what I mean?
What? Who's Scrappy? Scrappy-Doo sucks.
Yeah, Scrappy-Doo is Wesley. He's like the little version of Scooby, and Scooby is Giles. And it's like, oh, now we have this like annoying little Scrappy-Doo here. You know what I mean?
That is honestly hilarious.
Yeah, just like a little.
And he thinks he knows everything, but he really doesn't. Like he does come in clutch. He knows the Illuminati's like symbology on their swords and stuff. He's quickly able to deduce like, oh, it's these people, they're bad. But he is so like, he just thinks he knows everything. So to the point where he keeps saying Balthazar is dead. Balthazar is dead. There's no way he's alive.
Because
Turns
that's
out
what it
that's
says
wrong.
in the books. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what the books say. Well, the books were wrong. And Wesley, again, he just thinks he knows everything. And especially when Giles is getting nervous because Buffy hasn't returned from getting the amulet, like after a long time, he's like, actually, I've done the math, I've done the calculations, and she still has like a couple more minutes on my clock, according to my watch.
It just feels like, he needs to have more lived in experience, like this is kind
he's
of
book smart, not
very book smart. It's like when you go to university and you're like, oh, like I have learned everything that I need to know about being a businessman, but then you go into corporate life and like it's very different, or any job, right? So I did enjoy the dynamic though, and of course I'm not like Team Wesley, like he needs to be the Watcher, like no, but like having just like a little annoying guy, it should be like shadowing. Wesley should be shadowing Giles. This should be like a training.
Yeah, but they fired Giles. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, of course.
Right? Like
yes.
But I agree. Like he should have more lived in experience. Especially because so they do eventually, Giles and Wesley get captured by the Illuminati. And like they're standing in front of Balthazar. And Wesley has no chill. Giles has a little bit of Buffy now in him, and is like giving a little bit of snark, giving a little bit of sass, and freaking Wesley is the worst. He's such a blabbermouth. He immediately starts talking about, oh, it's this guy. He has the amulet. I don't know what his name is. And Sarah, okay, you know me. The listeners know me.
Was so good.
I don't care about Angel 90% of the time. I find him to be so bland and boring. However, there was something that really did it for me this episode.
Oh,
and it was Angel walking in, being like, his name is Angel. And then he kicks a bunch of ass.
Yeah, that was very, very cool. That was, I think that was like, that Angel is not so much a hop skipping away from Angelus. Like, like that was just very cool. And if we were to watch Angel, like that's the type of shit that like I would want to see from Angel, which it was just cool. It was a cool line. And it's kind of like how I felt like Didn't Suck was like a cool line as well. Like I got very excited, and it was very cool to see him kick butt. He almost dies by getting stuffed into Balthazar's
Balthazar's like stomach vagina mouth. Like he almost got eaten by the vagina mouth. Also, did you see Balthazar's nails? Like I know he loves a spa day, but he needs to see his manicurist, truly.
Sometimes it takes you need a couple of extra weeks, in between sessions.
He's gonna need straight up like hedge clippers or like
Yeah.
a saw to like get
Yeah.
through the gunk on those nails. Nasty.
Ugh,
But
yeah.
but yeah, so Angel locks it. His name is Angel, and I was like, oh, I'm getting
Yeah.
a little hot and bothered.
Look at you.
But then Buffy is a genius, of course, as always. She has learned to use her surroundings, and she electrocutes this sumbitch. And as
Mm,
he's dying, or like, I don't know, he comes back to life for like a hot second, and he's just like, when he rises, you'll wish I killed you all.
that was rock and roll too.
I
Yeah, and
I love a last line.
He's
Yeah.
referring to the mayor, which
Well, we assume, yes.
Oh, he's definitely talking about the mayor.
Yeah.
I would assume. But let's talk about just like the extra Scoobies, and then we can like jump to the mayor.
Yeah.
Because I just want to congratulate little Willow on getting into Harvard and all those fancy ass schools. Good job, Willow. I know you're just going to end up in Sunnydale University, but it's okay.
Yeah. No. But Willow, she got, and not only did she get into all these places, Sarah, early admission, which is like huge. There's two different, at least, okay, this is gonna age me probably like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Oh my God, I don't want to talk about it. However long ago I was like applying to colleges and stuff. There were two different like early things you could do. You could do like early admittance and early acceptance or something. And one of them meant you were like, if you got accepted, you were going there. Like you were committing to going there. But it seems like Willow has the other option where like all of these places have been like, yes, we want you, we want you, we want you. And they're all like very like Harvard, like very prestigious Ivy League sort of schools. So she has her pick of the litter on where she wants to go. And I was so happy for her. Like, this is so lovely that she gets to do this. I mean, Xander's talking about like, oh, I'm going to work at a factory, or, you know, he doesn't have as many prospects. Oz is like, yeah, you should graduate the year that you're a senior. Like, that would be great. Oz is sporting some new hair though, Sarah. He's gone to the dark side.
Oh, I think he looks good.
I mean, it's a choice. It's very goth. I think I preferred the like extremely highlighted version of his hair, but it's a look all the same.
It's a look. Cordelia and Xander have their typical little banter stuff. Cordelia really hit below the belt. She was just like, well, because he was like, your clothes look like you look like a hooker. And she was like, well, at least I can afford clothes because my dad has a job. So now we know not only is Xander's dad kind of abusive, but he also doesn't have a job. So his dad seems like a real sack of shit.
Yeah, this was unfortunate. I didn't like Xander saying that Cordelia dressed like a quote unquote hooker. Like, that was not very nice. Obviously she's not very nice to him either.
Okay, hold up. I just said that Cordelia hit below the belt, and then you say, yeah, Xander's a complete asshole because he said that she.
Oh, they both are hitting below the belt, in my opinion. I think both of them are. I think it's like so incredibly rude to be like, oh, the way you're dressed, you look like a hooker. Like, that is so awful to say to somebody.
Okay.
And so like certainly saying something awful about someone's family is just as bad. Like, I wish we were at a place, and again, like, I like Cordy, like, you know, putting in her digs a little bit sometimes to Xander because he does deserve it. But like, I do kind of wish we were at a place now where instead Cordy could be a part of the Scoobies, and every once in a while she makes a tiny jab at Xander, not about his family, nothing like that, just like a little tiny jab at him. That's where I wish we were right now, but we're not there. We're at the place where they're making very pointed below the belt comments to one another, and it is unfun.
Yep.
So, yeah, Willow, I felt bad for Willow, Sarah, in the scene where she makes this little protective spell necklace for Buffy. She even puts lavender in it so it's not stinky. And Buffy uninvites her from slaying because she says it's too dangerous.
Okay. I mean, it was too dangerous. Willow needs to work on less protection spells and more I'm going to murder you and you're going to burn on fire spells. How about that?
We just need her to get Fireball and then we're all set.
Yeah.
She has that. Everything's good.
I need more from you, Willow. You need to learn how to fight. You can't just like make little like lavender protection spells. Do better. No, I'm just
sure, Willow. Okay. Anything else about the Scoobies before we talk about Mr. Mayor?
No, I don't think so.
They didn't have a ton going on this week.
No, not at all.
So Mr. Mayor, he learns about the Illuminati being in town via Mr. Trixie, who brings him the weapons.
And he doesn't seem so pressed about it. He's just like, oh, this is good news because, they're just going to fight each other and it's just going to be like, somebody's going to die and it's going to be like another thing off my plate.
Yeah, let's let the Vamps and Buffy sort out themselves, take each other out. Sounds great for me because he has a quote unquote dedication happening in a few days. And he says it is the final steps before his ascension. He has waited a long time. And after the dedication, for 100 days, he will be on a higher plane, which we see at the end of the episode. He is now invincible for these 100 days. Now, Sarah, we've
very
talked.
Exciting.
We've like had some theories on what's going on with the mayor. I thought maybe he was some sort of a warlock where he had like tied himself to some sort of like patron or deity. And it seems like the chickens are coming home to roost. Where, how do you feel about the mayor possibly being some sort of otherworldly creature or monster or powerful entity who is using this like human body as a vessel until he can, as he says, ascend?
I don't understand it, but it sounds good to me, I guess. I was like, I don't know what words you just said.
I'm saying is like, what if we had an otherworldly creature, a demon, a whatever? He is using the mayor's like skin suit as like a temporary home until he ascends. Either that, or the mayor is just a human who's made some crazy pacts with like some very powerful people.
I think I buy into the mayor, probably because like this has just been the theory that's been like running around for a really long time for us. I feel like I buy more into that, but I mean, obviously I'm wrong. Like I have no fucking clue what's happening.
So we'll see what happens with that. But like we see him do this big spell in kind of like this star-shaped, very, very Wiccan sort of thing. He's speaking in Latin. And then they purposely let out one of the Illuminati vamps to like try to attack him. This vampire literally slices the mayor's head in half.
Yeah.
And the head flaps just flap back together and he's fine.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible. He is literally invincible, which is good for him. Good for the mayor.
Yeah, for 100 days. He has
for
100 days.
For 100 days, he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
What would you do if you were invincible for 100 days and you knew nothing could kill you or hurt you?
I'm trying to think what I would want to do. Not much of anything. I don't know. I don't think that there's anything that like I would want. I mean, maybe I would, because like I think I'm like too much of a fraidy cat to like jump out of a plane and like do whatever. But if I was invincible, then maybe I would just like do those things I've never thought that I could do. You know what I mean? Like bungee jump, just so I can have those experiences and know that I'm not going to literally die. I mean, how about you?
Well, I have questions about this invincibility, because does it also mean that like I won't get ailments? Like, will I not get sick for 100 days?
Yeah, I would say so.
Because in that case, I'm going to eat things that give me heartburn. I'm going to overload it on things that like,
why are you such a dweeb?
Because I don't want to jump out. Well, okay. Why am I jumping out of a plane? Like, I just don't know why I would do that, because like, it's probably safe anyway. Like, I don't know that I have like a big, it's not on my bucket list to like jump out of a plane.
I mean,
like,
it's not necessarily on my bucket list either, but that's because I'm afraid to do it.
You know what I would do? I would find a way to go to like Africa or somewhere with like very cool animals, and I would approach them in the wild, because they can't kill me, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would do.
I don't know. I just want to leave the animals alone. Like I don't
want to touch them. I just want to view them.
They're just trying to do their best, and like people are obsessed with them. You know what I mean?
I do know what
you mean. If a bear was like, I am obsessed with Jessica Sterling and I am going to go into her home and just like poke her, you know what I mean? Pet her. That's weird. I know you're looking at me like it's weird because it is weird. Like, why is it okay that the opposite thing is okay? Like, why is it okay for humans to go into an animal's space and be like, I just want to touch you and give you food? It's like, that's weird.
There are people who are really weird and like are approaching like bison and stuff, which is like extremely dangerous and really stupid. I mostly just want to like be there and be able to look at them.
Okay,
without
once
fear
again,
of
like, how would
dying.
you care? How would you feel if like a bear just like went up to your window and was just staring in there? You'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? You
I mean,
go,
yeah,
hey,
that'd
bear.
be weird.
Hey, bear, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? And he's like, I just want to watch you, Jessica
Just
Sterling.
want to look at you. Yeah,
That's weird.
that's weird.
I don't know. I just think that like maybe the concept of zoos and
Oh no, not zoos. I would
aquariums
do this
and
in the
safaris.
wild.
I know, and like maybe it's weird. Like maybe we just need to leave all the animals alone.
Sure. Yeah.
But I do like flamingos, and I do like to look at them. But I don't know. It's just like, let's just like leave these people alone. Anyway, yeah, the mayor can do anything that he wants. He's gonna fuck some shit up. He's probably gonna open up Hellmouth. He's gonna ruin everything. This is our last third of the season arc of what the mayor is going to do now that he has full power and is invincible for 100 days. It begins now, commences immediately. Mr. Trix is loving it. He's like, this is just good vibes. I love it. This is great for me. I approve of this message. So that this is where we're gonna go. And
yeah, so it seems like
very interesting.
They're building the mayor as like some sort of a big bad. But like you said, we still have the faith stuff we have to deal with. And then, of course, we have like now Wesley's involved. And I guess he's like an assistant librarian because he's at the library too. So good job, Wesley, I suppose.
How in the world are we like, how does this school afford to have 2 librarians on the staff? Like, come on, really?
I know. So we'll see where we pick up next week because we, like you said, we did leave off on Faith saying, I don't care, which is like a big thing to like, I guess it's kind of cliffhangery. It's like very much like, okay, well, we'll see where that goes next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking of, next week's episode is titled Season 3, Episode 15, Consequences. So it feels like we're very much going to pick up to where we left off here.
I mean, that's what happens when you do things, they have consequences. So
so we'll see what happens there. Let's get into some feedback though, because we did get some emails. Friend of the pod, Tom Palmer, sent us an email saying this episode introduces Tom's favorite character, Wesley.
Tom's favorite character is Wesley?
Apparently.
Says who?
Tom.
Oh, Tom said that.
Played by Alexis Desanoff, who you all may recognize as Sandy Rivers from How I Met Your Mother and How I Met Your Father. Speaking of How I Met Your Mother, when he's telling his kids the story of how he met their mother, he will be talking about this episode because he met his wife and the mother of his children while filming Buffy. Sarah, do you know who he's married to? Have you seen this? And yes, okay, in our group chat.
Yeah.
He is married to Allison Hannigan, aka Willow.
What a catch for Allison Hannigan, because I gotta say, Wesley's kind of hot.
I did not have that opinion when I watched this episode, but probably because I was like thirsting over Giles, going back to his like Ripper days where he's like bucking authority and just being a little bit of a terror.
Wait, what's this guy's name again?
Alexis Denisoff.
Denisoff.
Like Dennis.
This guy is
the word of.
Yeah, this guy's very hot.
Okay.
I'm not Googling, I promise.
Yeah, definitely not Googling.
Oh, they're so cute. Look at all these pictures of them.
But you're definitely not Googling.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm just seeing it in my mind's eye.
Yep. Tom wants to know, was Wesley what you expected for Buffy's new Watcher? And having met several Watchers now, what is your opinion of the organization overall?
I mean, I said that I thought that they were clones. So
yes. No, I don't think Wesley was what I was expecting. I was kind of hoping we would get a female Watcher. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that like Wesley feels a lot like season 1 Giles. And I have no respect for the organization of Watchers because they obviously, first of all, give we need a union for the Slayers.
Mhm,
They obviously
yeah.
don't give a single fuck about the Slayers. They only
No.
ever care about the Watchers, who are old white men, so go figure. It just feels like a poorly run institution. Like, it seems like Wesley has no on the ground training at all.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't particularly care for the Watcher organization, Sarah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they are very regimented in their training, which is why they all in actuality, why they all are so similar. Like, I think that they are like brought up to do and behave the same way. I guess like I feel as though I'm not super surprised because I feel like the Watchers that we have met have been similar archetypes as we were discussing earlier. Um, I think it's like, and I feel like I'm kind of into it. Like, I kind of feel as though like it's funny to get like a factory reset version of Giles for a new Watcher. Like, oh, this is it. Like, this is just like base model A.
Yeah.
For a Watcher. It's
I-
kind of funny.
Yeah, I will say this episode was the first time that I can recall that I have felt like I could rewatch the first couple seasons of Buffy. Like,
Mhm.
and I think it's probably because of Wesley, because I'm like, wow, Giles really has changed. And
Yeah.
so I think it made me, and same thing with, like, we talked about this already, like the Faith and Buffy relationship and the Giles and Wesley relationship, like, I feel like made me want to go back to the beginning and see like where these characters started, you know?
Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yeah, exactly. We also got an email from Justin who said,
Mhm.
first, some of this stuff is about the last podcast. Let me say, wow, I'm pleased. I'm almost as pleased as Xander was this past episode that Jess was able to put aside the Xander slander for the episode.
I'm
Yeah, like
proud
I
of
said,
you.
don't count on that
Yeah.
lasting for a super long time.
Everybody was so proud of you, Jess. And I just
Yeah,
want to say, like,
did
it
it.
must feel very good to get such positive feedback from our listeners and like
Mhm.
the fact that they were congratulating you. Did it feel good?
It was fine.
Okay, cool.
Justin also says, Sarah, congratulations on your marriage. I was
Thank
recently
you
best man
very
at my
much.
best friend's wedding. I've got to ask. Oh, wait, no, sorry. You, continue because then he goes on to something else. He
Thank
was
you
recently
very much, Justin.
best man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I hope that your best man speech went well. If you had a speech, I've said this before, but I have done a couple of maid of honor speeches. I think I've done 3 or 4 now. So
Wow.
yeah, they keep getting better as I do them. So
Justin wants to know, Sarah, do you even like the show? I get the fighting scenes aren't for everyone, but you say those put you to sleep. And then you say the lore puts you to sleep. But you kind of need the lore to improve aspects of the show. As
yeah.
for the kicky, punchy, as you call it, season 5, Sharon Michelle Gellar gets a new stunt double, a much more athletic one too. So we'll see better fight scenes there.
Mhm. Do I even like the show? When I read
Mhm.
this, it made me laugh. And it also made me think, do I like Buffy the Vampire Slayer? I think that from this episode, like if you don't think that I like this show based off of my feedback from this episode, then I do, of course. Like I think it's pretty obvious that I like it. I think that it is not my normal genre. It is not what I thought one day I would be podcasting about. I think that Dawson's Creek was much more quote unquote on brand for us, just like a stupid teen like drama. That is more like so much more like what I'm like like I typically gravitate towards. And I've like never been Jessica's like a little bit more like into not sci-fi, supernatural stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you
definitely.
have more of like that brain that
I
I
watch
do.
more genres of television than you do. I'd say like
Mhm.
you like you like what you like and you stick to those sorts of
Yeah.
genres.
Mhm.
I am more likely to watch something because I hear it's good,
Yeah.
regardless of the
Yeah.
genre it's in.
Yeah. So I would say like this is definitely like a departure for me. Like I'm not like used to it. I do think that I'm warming up to the lore and I feel as though I have been there's been times where I get very excited about talking about the lore or like, you know, oh, like this is what happens with this. I think that it's just like it takes more for me to process and understand it. And then in terms of the kiki punchy, I'm just like, once again, not that much of an action person. Like, I got very brought in when they're gossiping during the action scenes. Like that I can pay attention to. But the question is, do I like this show? I do like this show. I do.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is my favorite show of all time, but that's okay because it's your favorite show of all time, not you, Jessica, but a lot of the listeners that are listening.
Yeah.
It's your favorite show. And I can get hyped that you love it.
Yeah.
And
It can be really difficult covering a show that so many people like adore and have like fondness for, have respect for, have nostalgia for. I think sometimes that can be difficult for us when we don't have that nostalgia. So we don't already have the warm fuzzies about something we're covering. It's a little bit more difficult because, of course, we're going to point out the flaws or like the things that don't necessarily age well or stuff that maybe doesn't work for us as well as it worked for others. I think especially watching a show that has 20 something episodes a season, it's not really done much nowadays. So these are kind of like relics in a way, and you do feel the lulls when you have like 20 something episodes. You're not necessarily getting all main storyline. You're going to get a bunch of like monster of the week stuff, which again, your mileage may vary on how much
I mean,
you like that sort of thing.
Like historically, I've enjoyed the Monster of the Week episodes. So I just think that it's just like it's just different for me, right? Like it's different and it's harder for me to like process some of this like heavy lore stuff because my brain just like doesn't, I don't know. It's been a while.
It's not usually what you watch. So
yeah. So, or what I read. Like, I mean, like there's definitely been times where I've read more supernatural stuff, but it was definitely when I was younger. Because I read books. I beat my Goodreads reading goal this year. I read books, but typically they're like psychological thrillers. Yeah. So I don't know. What else did Justin say?
Justin continued, as for Zordy not having sex, to me, Cordy has always struck me as someone that will make you work for that. Yeah. Yes, they made out hot and heavy, but Cordy ain't just going to give that cookie to anyone.
I agree. That's, I think, what I said last week. That tracks.
Also, David did message me with like a very solid point that I'll bring up here because it's relevant. That like it also could have been that Xander was like holding out for Buffy to be his first or something, and so that's why he didn't have sex with Cordelia. Like because he still has, he has like very deep-seated feelings for her. I think that was a good point. That like that certainly could be possible. That he views it as like a big deal.
Wow. Okay,
but maybe not. Who knows? And then Justin has thoughts on Bad Girls. Am I the only one who thought there may have been something more between our two Slayers this episode? Absolutely not. You were not the only one. I've read somewhere that Buffy may or may not be bisexual. The series continues in a series of comics, and apparently Buffy has slept with 2 women in them, but I'm not sure whether she is or if it was a situation like Faith where she was about to pop that she had to get it out. Faith, however, has been proven bi, and I also heard in an interview that Eliza Dushku has said she felt there was something between the two and would have liked to explore it further. I hope you're ready because this is where the season takes its twist.
Interesting. I am ready. Yeah. I'm ready and I'm excited. And if it's more of what we got in this episode, then I think that nobody is going to be questioning if I like this show or not.
Yeah, I really like this episode, and I totally agree. Easily could see the Fuffy fans coming out of the woodwork. Justin also wants to know if we ever consider covering the movie Blade, which I've never seen. Let me look. Blade movie.
It's a vampire movie, I think.
Oh, it is. Yeah, a horror action movie called Blade. I've never seen this.
Okay.
I don't know. He said I thought on Halloween would have been a good time because he's a half a vampire and you're still doing Buffy. Well, so then yeah, maybe this upcoming Halloween, which is a while away, but it would be fitting. We can consider covering it. Everyone else, let us know. Is Blade worth us watching and covering? That's all the feedback that we have. So thank you for everyone who sent it in. shitnightiespod.com, shitnightiespod@gmail.com is how you can reach out. But next week we'll be back with season 3, episode 15, Consequences. So excited to see what's going on there. Anything else you want to plug or promote, Sarah?
If you haven't watched or listened to our bonus episode that we released on Christmas toys, do so.
Yes.
And I hope everybody just has a happy holiday.
Awesome. Okay, well, we will be back in the new year for you all with the next episode of Buffy. So until then, everyone, here endeth the lesson.
Just ask. Shit 90 shows taught me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.